I convinced my husband to sell our daughter to strangers for a Tesla, and now I'm rotting in prison while my son exposes our crimes to the world. I thought I was being smart, strategic, giving everyone what they needed. I was just a greedy monster who destroyed my family for a car. My name is Patricia, and I ruined everything the day I decided my 15-year-old daughter Mia was worth less than luxury and status. It started with social media poisoning my brain. Instagram moms in their perfect houses, driving their Model S Teslas, posting about their simplified lives with fewer responsibilities. Meanwhile, I was drowning in debt, driving a 2009 Honda with a broken air conditioner, dealing with Mia's expensive therapy sessions and college prep costs while my friends flaunted their upgraded lives. Look at Jennifer's new Tesla, I'd show my husband Mark, scrolling through photos of her gleaming white Model X. She says it's so quiet, so efficient. We could save so much on gas. Mark would grunt from his recliner, barely looking up. We can't afford a Tesla, Pat. We can barely afford groceries. But I couldn't stop obsessing. The Tesla represented everything I felt I deserved after 20 years of sacrifice. While my friends were posting vacation photos and designer purchases, I was clipping coupons and shopping at thrift stores, all because we had 2 kids to support instead of just one manageable child. That's when the poisonous thoughts started. Mia wasn't even mine biologically. She was Mark's daughter from his first marriage, and her mother had abandoned them when Mia was 3. I'd raised her, sure, but she'd always been difficult. Therapy for anxiety, expensive tutoring for her learning disability, constant drama with friends. She was 17 now, almost an adult, practically independent. My son Jake, 19 and in community college, was easy. Low maintenance, worked part-time, never caused problems. Why was I killing myself financially for a stepdaughter who'd probably move out in a year anyway? Mia costs us almost $2,000 a month, I complained to Mark one evening after another expensive therapy bill. Counseling, tutoring, her medications, college prep courses. Jake never needed any of that. She's been through trauma, Pat. Her mother abandoning her, adjusting to our family. She needs support. For how long? She's almost 18. Other kids her age are working jobs, contributing to their families. Mark looked at me strangely. She's our daughter. We support her until she's ready to be independent. But I was already calculating. Without Mia's expenses, we could afford car payments on a Tesla. We could join the country club Jennifer belonged to. We could take vacations, buy clothes that didn't come from outlet stores, live the life I've been sacrificing for years. The idea came to me gradually, poisonously. I started researching adoption reversal, wondering if there were legal ways to simplify our family situation. What I found was darker but more immediately profitable. Private adoption agencies that paid premium prices for healthy teenage girls. Wealthy families desperate for children, willing to pay enormous fees for the right match. International networks that specialize in quick, quiet transactions. The money was staggering. $150,000 to $300,000 for the right teenager, depending on appearance, health, intelligence. Cash payments, minimal paperwork, transactions that could be completed in weeks. Mia was beautiful, smart despite her learning differences, healthy, and almost 18. She'd age out of the system soon anyway, become fully independent. Why not get compensated for the years of investment we've made in raising her? I started researching how these transactions worked, telling myself I was just curious, just exploring options. But really I was planning. The key was making Mia complicit, making her believe she wanted this change. I began undermining her confidence, making her feel like a burden, suggesting she'd be happier with a real family who could give her opportunities we couldn't afford. Mia, honey, I know you've been struggling with feeling like you don't fit in here, I'd say after particularly expensive therapy sessions. Have you ever thought about exploring other living situations? There are programs for kids who need different environments. I'm fine here, Mom. I know I'm expensive, but I'm trying to get better. Oh, sweetie, you're not expensive. But maybe you'd thrive with a family that specializes in kids with your particular needs. Families with more resources, more experience. I planted seeds slowly, methodically. Meanwhile, I contacted private agencies, describing Mia's assets, her background, her potential value to the right family. She's academically capable despite some learning challenges, I told the agency representative. Beautiful girl, very compliant, no behavioral issues. Her father and I are considering placement due to financial constraints. The agency was immediately interested. Mia fit a specific profile they had clients seeking: older teenager, past the difficult adjustment years, intelligent and attractive, available for immediate placement. We have a family in Texas who would be perfect, the agent explained. Wealthy couple, no other children, specifically requesting a teenage daughter. They're offering $275,000 for the right match. $275,000. More money than I'd ever seen at once. Enough for a Tesla, a down payment on a bigger house, Jake's college tuition, everything I'd been sacrificing for years. What's the process? I asked, my heart pounding. Simple. The teenager needs to consent to the placement, which is usually easy if they understand they're moving to a better situation. Parents sign relinquishment papers. Money transfers within 48 hours of placement. I convinced Mark gradually, using his financial fears and exhaustion against him. Mark, we're drowning. Jake needs college money, we can barely afford groceries, the car's about to die completely. Mia's almost 18 anyway, she could legally leave tomorrow if she wanted. So we give her away? Pat, she's my daughter. She's not going to strangers. She's going to a family who can give her everything we can't. Private school, therapy with the best doctors, college fund already established. We'd be doing what's best for her. It took weeks of wearing him down, but Mark finally agreed when I showed him the numbers. $275,000 would solve every financial problem we had. Mia would get opportunities we couldn't provide. Everyone would benefit. Getting Mia's consent was harder than I expected. You want me to live with strangers? She asked when I first brought up the Texas family. Not strangers, honey. A family who specifically wants a daughter like you. They have resources for your therapy, they can pay for the best colleges, they can give you stability we've been struggling to provide. I don't want stability from strangers. I want to stay here. Mia, be realistic. You're going to college in a year anyway. This way, you'd have a support system, a family with experience helping kids with your challenges succeed. I made our home feel unstable, stressed about money constantly, suggested we might have to move to a smaller apartment, that Jake might have to drop out of college because we couldn't afford both kids' futures. Maybe it would be better, Mia finally said quietly one evening after I'd been particularly dramatic about our financial situation. If I'm such a burden, maybe I should go somewhere I won't ruin everyone's plans. That should have been my moment to reassure her, to tell her she wasn't a burden, that we'd figure out our problems together as a family. Instead, I said, honey, you're not a burden. But this could be a good opportunity for everyone. The agency arranged a video call with a Texas family. Richard and Susan Palmer, both in their 50s, wealthy from Richard's tech company, desperate for a daughter after years of failed fertility treatments. They seemed kind, stable, genuinely excited about welcoming Mia into their family. We've been waiting so long for the right match, Susan said during the call. Mia, you seem like exactly the daughter we've been hoping for. Mia was polite but quiet during the call. Afterward, she asked me, Mom, do you really want me to do this? I should have said no. Should have held her and told her she was wanted, that we'd make our financial problems work somehow, that no amount of money was worth losing her. Instead, I said, I want what's best for you, sweetheart. And I think this could be an incredible opportunity. The paperwork was surprisingly simple. Mia signed consent forms after I assured her she could change her mind any time, that the Palmers understood she might need time to adjust. Mark signed relinquishment papers with shaking hands, but he signed them. I signed everything eagerly, already imagining the Tesla in our driveway. The exchange happened at a hotel near the airport. The Palmers flew in from Texas, warm and welcoming, treating Mia like she was already their beloved daughter. They brought photo albums of their home, their extended family, Mia's new bedroom that Susan had decorated specifically for a teenage girl. We're so excited to have you home with us, Richard told Mia, handing her a jewelry box. This was my mother's. I've been saving it for my daughter. Mia looked overwhelmed but tried to smile. The Palmers were kind, clearly wealthy, obviously sincere about wanting her in their family. $275,000 transferred to our account within hours. I hugged Mia goodbye at the hotel, promising to visit soon, to stay in touch, to make sure she was happy. She clung to me longer than usual, and I felt a flicker of doubt. Mom, what if I don't like it there? What if they don't really want me once they get to know me? Then you call us immediately and we'll figure it out, I lied. But I think you're going to love it. They can give you so much more than we ever could. Mia flew to Texas that afternoon. I went Tesla shopping that evening. The Model S was everything I dreamed. Silent, luxurious, packed with technology. The salesperson treated me like I was important, wealthy, successful. For the first time in years, I felt like I mattered. Cash purchase? The salesman asked, impressed. Inheritance, I said smoothly. Not technically a lie, I'd inherited this opportunity by marrying Mark and gaining a stepdaughter. Driving home in my new Tesla, I felt triumphant. I'd solved our financial problems, given Mia opportunities she'd never have had with us, and finally gotten something I deserved after years of sacrifice. Jake was appalled. Mom, you sold Mia? You literally sold your daughter for a car? I didn't sell her. I found her a better family. And it wasn't for a car, it was to solve our financial problems and secure your college future. She didn't want to go. She was crying when she called me from the airport. She was nervous about change. That's normal. She'll adjust. But Jake wasn't buying my rationalization. He'd been Mia's protective big brother for years, and he saw exactly what I'd done. You got rid of her because she was expensive and you wanted a Tesla. That's not finding her a better family, that's selling your child. I blocked out Jake's criticism and focused on enjoying my new life. The Tesla was perfect. The financial stress was gone. Mark seemed happier without the constant worry about Mia's therapy and college costs. For 3 weeks, I convinced myself I'd made the right choice. Then Mia called. Mom, I want to come home. Her voice was small, scared, not the confident teenager I'd sent to Texas. Sweetie, what's wrong? Aren't the Palmers treating you well? They're fine. But they're not my family. They keep trying to change everything about me, my clothes, my hair, my interests. Susan threw away all my photos of you and Jake and Dad. She said I needed to focus on my new family now. My stomach clenched. That's probably just her way of helping you adjust. Mom, I don't want to adjust. I want to come home. I miss you. I miss Jake. I miss my room, my school, my friends. Please. Mia, honey, you need to give it more time. You've only been there 3 weeks. I've given it time. They're nice people, but they're not my parents. You're my mom. Please let me come home. The desperation in her voice broke something in me, but not enough to overcome my greed and pride. I'd already spent a significant portion of the money, Tesla payments, new furniture, paying off credit cards. Taking Mia back would mean admitting I'd made a mistake, returning money I'd already used, facing the shame of what I'd done. Mia, we can't just change our minds. The Palmers have made a significant investment in welcoming you into their family. Investment? Mom, I'm not an investment. I'm your daughter. You're their daughter now. Legally. That's what we all agreed to. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, so you won't let me come home? I can't let you come home, sweetheart. But I know you're going to be happy there once you give it a real chance. Mia hung up without saying goodbye. She called twice more over the following weeks, begging to come home, describing how isolated she felt, how the Palmers were kind but controlling, how she felt like an object they purchased rather than a daughter they loved. Each time, I told her she needed to adjust, to appreciate the opportunities she was being given, to stop dwelling on the past. The calls stopped after that. I told myself Mia had finally settled in, found happiness with her new family, started building the better life I'd arranged for her. I was driving my Tesla to the country club, feeling sophisticated and successful, when Jake called me. Mom, you need to see something. He sent me a link to a TikTok video titled My Parents Sold Me for a Tesla, Part 1. The video had 3 million views and climbing. Mia's face filled the screen, older looking than when I'd seen her 3 months earlier, sadder but determined. Hi everyone. My name is Mia, and I want to tell you about how my stepmother sold me to strangers so she could buy a luxury car. My blood turned to ice as I watched my daughter, my former daughter, detail exactly what I'd done. The financial manipulation, the emotional coercion, the way I'd made her feel like a burden until she agreed to leave. I thought my mom was struggling and needed help, Mia said directly to the camera. I thought I was being mature and self-sacrificing by agreeing to live with the Palmers. I didn't know she was getting paid almost $300,000 to get rid of me. The video showed documents, copies of the adoption agency paperwork, bank transfer records, even photos of me at the Tesla dealership the day after she'd left for Texas. While I was crying in a stranger's house, missing my family, my stepmother was buying a Model S Tesla with the money she got for selling me. 3 million views. 3 million people learning that I'd sold my stepdaughter for a car. Her video series had 5 million views. Part 3 had 8 million. By Part 4, Mia's story was being covered by news outlets, child advocacy groups, legal analysts explaining how what I'd done was technically legal but morally monstrous. Mia had been documenting her experience with the Palmers, secretly recording conversations where Susan Palmer discussed training her new daughter to fit their family image, where Richard Palmer talked about the investment they'd made in acquiring her. They're not bad people, Mia said in one video. But they didn't want a daughter. They wanted a teenage accessory who would be grateful and compliant and make them look like saviors. The Palmers, horrified by the public attention and Mia's obvious unhappiness, had agreed to reverse the adoption and return her to her original family. Except her original family didn't want her back. Mark, finally understanding the full scope of what I'd orchestrated, had filed for divorce and moved in with his brother. He wanted nothing to do with me but also couldn't face Mia after allowing her to be sold. Jake had picked up Mia from the airport when she returned from Texas, but he was living in a dorm room, working 2 jobs to pay for college since I'd spent his tuition money on my Tesla and lifestyle upgrades. So here I am, Mia said in her latest video, speaking from what looked like a youth shelter. 17 years old, no family, living in temporary housing because my stepmother sold me for a car and my dad was too ashamed to face me afterward. 8 million views and counting. The comments were brutal. This woman is a monster. How is this legal? This is human trafficking. That poor girl. I hope she sues them for everything they have. The stepmother's Instagram is public, she's still posting pictures of her Tesla. I'd been so focused on enjoying my new car and financial freedom that I hadn't realized Mia was building a case against me online, documenting every aspect of what I'd done, turning public opinion into a weapon. The local news picked up her story. Child Protective Services launched an investigation. The district attorney started examining whether charges could be filed. But the worst part was watching Jake's interview on Mia's channel. My mom convinced me this was about financial necessity, he said, looking exhausted and betrayed. She made it seem like we were drowning in debt and Mia was the problem. But the day after Mia left for Texas, Mom went Tesla shopping. She wasn't solving a financial crisis, she was upgrading her lifestyle. I've been Mia's big brother since I was 2 years old. She's not my stepsister, she's my sister. And I let our mother sell her because I believed the lies about needing money for college. Jake looked directly at the camera. Mom, if you're watching this, you need to understand what you did. You didn't find Mia a better family. You sold your daughter because you wanted a luxury car more than you wanted her. The video ended with Jake's phone number on screen and a message: Mia needs a place to stay until she turns 18 and can access the college fund our dad set up for her. If anyone in the Portland area can offer temporary housing for an amazing girl who deserves so much better than what our family gave her, please call. Within hours, Jake had received hundreds of calls from families offering to help Mia. The Tesla in my driveway suddenly felt like evidence of my crime rather than a symbol of my success. I was sitting in that Tesla, parked outside the grocery store where I'd run into Jennifer, when my phone rang. Patricia Chen? The voice was official, cold. Yes? This is Detective Morrison with Portland Police. We need you to come to the station for questioning regarding the sale of a minor child. My hands started shaking. I don't understand. Everything I did was legal. Ma'am, we're investigating possible charges of human trafficking, child endangerment, and fraud. You have the right to an attorney? Through the grocery store window, I could see Jennifer inside, shopping with her Tesla keys visible in her cart, living the life I'd thought I wanted. But Jennifer had earned her Tesla through her own career success. She hadn't sold her children to afford it. Ma'am? We need you to come in voluntarily, or we can send officers to collect you. I looked at my Tesla, the car I destroyed my family to afford, and realized it had become my prison. Prison orange doesn't look good on anyone, but it looks especially terrible on a woman who thought she was too smart to get caught. 2 years into a 15-year sentence for human trafficking and child endangerment, and I'm finally understanding the weight of what I did to Mia. She's a social media phenomenon now. Her TikTok account has 12 million followers, her YouTube channel gets millions of views per video, and she's written a book about surviving family betrayal that's been on bestseller lists for months. Sold for a Tesla, a survivor's story has made her more money than I ever dreamed of having. The irony isn't lost on me. I sold Mia to get rich quick, and my betrayal ended up making her wealthy and famous while destroying my life completely. The trial was a media circus that exposed every detail of my greed and manipulation. The prosecutor painted me as a calculating predator who groomed my own stepdaughter for sale, and honestly, that's exactly what I was. Patricia Chen didn't sell her daughter because of financial desperation, the prosecutor told the jury. Bank records show she had $50,000 in savings when she initiated contact with the adoption agency. She sold Mia Morrison because she wanted a Tesla more than she wanted her child. The evidence was overwhelming. My Google search history showing months of research into private adoption agencies and luxury car pricing. Text messages with the agency discussing Mia's market value. Bank records showing I'd used the sale money for the Tesla, country club membership, designer clothes, and a vacation to Europe. Most damaging was the recording Mia had made of our last phone conversation, when she begged to come home and I told her she needed to stay with the Palmers because they'd made a significant investment in her. You can hear Patricia Chen refer to her own daughter as an investment that needed to be protected, the prosecutor said as my own words played back to condemn me. This wasn't a mother making a difficult decision for her child's benefit. This was a woman who viewed her teenager as a commodity to be sold. Mia's victim impact statement destroyed any remaining sympathy the jury might have had for me. Patricia Chen wasn't my mother, Mia said, looking directly at me for the first time since the trial began. Mothers protect their children, sacrifice for their children, put their children's needs above their own wants. Patricia saw me as an obstacle to the lifestyle she felt she deserved. She convinced me I was a burden, that I was ruining the family's financial stability, that I'd be happier with strangers who could afford me. She made a 17-year-old girl believe she was so worthless that her own family needed to be paid to keep her. But the truth is, Patricia didn't need money. She wanted status. She wanted to drive the same car as her Instagram friends. She wanted to join their country club and take their vacations. And she was willing to sell her daughter to afford that lifestyle. Mia had built her entire case methodically, documenting every lie I'd told, every manipulation I'd used, every moment I'd chosen greed over her well-being. I recorded our conversations because I hoped she'd eventually tell me the truth, show some remorse, admit she'd made a mistake. Instead, every conversation proved she saw me as a successful transaction rather than a daughter she missed. The jury convicted me on all charges: human trafficking, child endangerment, fraud, and conspiracy. 15 years, with possibility of parole after 10 if I demonstrated genuine remorse and rehabilitation. Mark testified against me, sobbing as he described how I'd manipulated his love for Mia against him, made him believe he was being a good father by letting her go to a better family. I failed Mia completely, he said on the witness stand. But Patricia orchestrated that failure. She convinced me Mia would be happier, safer, better cared for by the Palmers. I signed those papers because I trusted my wife to know what was best for our daughter. Mark has visited Mia regularly since the trial ended, working to rebuild their relationship and make amends for his role in my betrayal. He's in therapy, dealing with the guilt of letting me convince him to sign away his daughter. But Mark has never visited me in prison. Neither has Jake. Jake testified about how I'd used his college tuition as emotional leverage, making him believe Mia's expenses were preventing him from getting an education. He'd felt guilty for years about resenting his sister's therapy costs and special needs, not realizing I was deliberately fostering that resentment to make selling her seem reasonable. My mom turned me against Mia by making me think it was her fault we didn't have money, Jake said in court. She made me complicit in her plan by making me believe Mia leaving would solve our family's problems. I'll live with that guilt forever. Jake is finishing college now, working 3 jobs to pay his own way since he refuses to accept any financial help that might be connected to what I did. He appears in Mia's videos sometimes, talking about sibling relationships and family healing. They've grown closer since my arrest, bonding over the shared trauma of having a mother who was willing to destroy their family for material possessions. Mia lives with a foster family now, the Johnsons, who responded to Jake's plea for help when she first returned from Texas. They're a middle-class family with 2 other kids, nothing fancy or wealthy, but they've given Mia something the Palmers couldn't: unconditional love without expectation of gratitude. The Johnsons didn't adopt me to feel good about themselves or to fill some void in their lives, Mia explained in one of her videos. They helped me because I needed help, and they've never made me feel like I owe them anything for their kindness. Mrs. Johnson has become the mother figure I never was to Mia. She appears in some of Mia's videos, offering advice about college applications, celebrating Mia's achievements, providing the stable support system I destroyed when I chose a Tesla over my daughter. Mia graduated high school with honors and received a full scholarship to Northwestern University, where she's studying social work and child advocacy. She wants to work with kids who've been trafficked or abandoned by their families, turning her trauma into purpose. Her social media platforms have become resources for other kids dealing with family betrayal, adoption trauma, and abuse. She raises money for youth shelters and speaks at conferences about child welfare and protection. The book she wrote about our story became a bestseller and was optioned for a Netflix documentary. Mia donated most of the proceeds to organizations that help trafficked children, keeping just enough to pay for college and establish financial independence. She's accomplished more in the 2 years since I sold her than I accomplished in 20 years of marriage and motherhood. The other inmates here know my story because Mia's videos went viral, and child traffickers are at the bottom of the prison hierarchy. I've been beaten twice and spend most of my time in protective isolation, which gives me endless hours to replay every choice that led me here. My cellmate Rosa is serving time for selling drugs to support her addiction. Even she looks at me with disgust. At least I was high when I made my worst decisions, she said after learning why I'm here. You were sober when you decided your kid was worth less than a car. That's some cold-blooded shit. The worst part isn't the violence or isolation or daily humiliation. It's watching Mia's success and knowing I could have been part of it, proud of it, celebrated for raising such an incredible young woman. Instead, I'm the cautionary tale in her story. The villain who made her strong by trying to destroy her. Mia does interviews now about family trauma and recovery. She's poised, articulate, wise beyond her years. When journalists ask about me, she's clinical and detached, discussing my behavior like she's analyzing a case study rather than describing her own mother. Patricia Chen represents a specific type of family dysfunction where children are viewed as investments rather than individuals, she said in a recent interview. She wasn't unusual in seeing me as a financial burden. What was unusual was her willingness to monetize that burden by literally selling me. The tragic part isn't what she did to me. I survived and thrived despite her betrayal. The tragic part is that she destroyed herself and her family for a car that's now probably worth half what she paid for it. Mia was right about the Tesla's depreciation. The car was repossessed when I couldn't make payments from prison, sold at auction for a fraction of what I paid. The country club membership was cancelled, the designer clothes donated to charity, the European vacation just a memory of temporary pleasure that cost me everything permanent in my life. I traded my role as Mia's mother, Jake's mother, Mark's wife, for 8 months of feeling superior to other soccer moms at the grocery store parking lot. The most painful part of Mia's interviews is when she talks about what she lost when I sold her. I didn't just lose a family, she explains. I lost the ability to trust that love is unconditional. I lost the security of believing that the people who are supposed to protect you actually will. I lost the innocence of thinking that parents put their children's needs above their own wants. Patricia taught me that everyone has a price at which they'll abandon you. That knowledge will affect every relationship I have for the rest of my life. But Mia has also talked about what she gained from surviving my betrayal. Strength, independence, clarity about what real love looks like, determination to break cycles of family dysfunction. I learned that blood doesn't make family, commitment does. The Johnsons have been more of a family to me in 2 years than Patricia was in 17, because they chose to love me without conditions or expectations of return. Mia never mentions missing me or wishing things had been different between us. In her story, I'm simply the obstacle she overcame, the trauma she survived, the lesson she learned about human nature. She's erased me as a mother and replaced me as a cautionary tale. I write letters to Mia regularly, trying to explain, to apologize, to somehow undo the damage I caused. She's never responded to a single one, and I don't blame her. What would I say? That I was manipulated by social media into thinking I deserved better than the life I had? That I was jealous of other women's possessions and willing to destroy my family to compete with them? That I convinced myself selling her was somehow beneficial for everyone involved? All of that is true, but none of it excuses what I did. None of it gives Mia back her sense of security or her ability to trust that love is permanent. The hardest part is accepting that there's no redemption available for some choices. No amount of remorse or rehabilitation will give me back my relationship with Mia and Jake. No amount of time will undo the trauma I caused or rebuild the trust I destroyed. I'm not the victim of my story, Mia is. I'm not the one who needs sympathy or second chances, she's the one who deserved protection and got betrayal instead. The chaplain here talks about forgiveness and redemption, about how everyone deserves a chance to make amends. But some damage is permanent, some betrayals are unforgivable, and some consequences are exactly what the person who caused them deserves. I get out of prison in 8 years if I maintain good behavior. I'll be 53 years old with a human trafficking conviction and no family. Mia will be 27 by then, probably married, maybe starting her own family, definitely successful in her chosen career helping other kids who were failed by the adults who were supposed to protect them. She'll be someone who survived and thrived despite having a mother who saw her as a commodity rather than a child. And I'll be exactly what I chose to become, nothing to anyone who ever mattered. The scariest part isn't spending the rest of my life alone with the consequences of my choices. The scariest part is knowing there are other parents out there right now, scrolling through social media, feeling jealous of their friends' lifestyles, wondering if their kids are worth the financial sacrifice required to raise them properly. They're telling themselves they deserve better, that their children would be happier elsewhere, that money could solve all their problems if they just made some hard strategic choices. They're looking at their teenagers and seeing dollar signs instead of daughters, burdens instead of blessings, obstacles instead of opportunities to love unconditionally. And they're going to convince themselves, just like I did, that they're being smart and practical and selfless when they're really just being selfish and greedy and monstrous. Mia's story went viral because what I did was shocking, but the thinking that led to my choices isn't uncommon at all. Social media has convinced an entire generation of parents that they deserve more than they have, that their children are preventing them from living their best lives, that love should be conditional on convenience and cost. Somewhere out there is another desperate, jealous mother scrolling through Instagram, looking at other people's cars and houses and vacations, wondering if the cost of raising her kids is worth it. She's about to find out it's not. And her children will survive her betrayal the way Mia survived mine, by learning that family isn't about blood or obligation, but about choosing to love and protect each other no matter what. They'll build better families than the ones that failed them. But they'll never trust a mother's love the same way again.